Stop. Your soulmate has been trying to tell you something very important. Before you decide that this is just another message, stay with me for a moment, because sometimes the quietest moments carry the truths we have been searching for the longest. There are seasons in life when nothing seems to make sense. You wake up feeling as though someone is thinking about you, yet no message arrives. You catch yourself looking at the clock at unusual times, noticing repeating numbers, remembering a face you haven't seen in what feels like forever, and wondering why your heart refuses to let go. Most people dismiss these moments as coincidence, but every meaningful connection begins with something that cannot be explained immediately. What if the silence you have been living through is not empty at all? What if it has been carrying a message that has simply been waiting for the right moment to reach your heart? This moment may be that moment. There is someone whose soul has been carrying words too heavy to speak aloud. Every day they have searched for courage, only to find fear standing in the doorway. They have rehearsed conversations that never happened. They have imagined your reaction 1,000 different ways. They have questioned whether reaching out would heal the distance or make it even greater. While you believed nothing was changing, something inside them was transforming, one quiet heartbeat at a time. The truth is that important messages are rarely delivered with noise. They arrive gently, almost unnoticed, asking only that we slow down enough to recognize them. Your journey has not been random. Every delay, every unexpected turn, every lesson that felt unfair has been shaping you into someone capable of receiving a truth that your past self would never have understood. Sometimes life separates two people not because they are meant to remain apart forever, but because both hearts still have lessons that can only be learned alone. Growth often happens in silence, and silence is uncomfortable because it forces us to face ourselves without distraction. During that silence, both of you have changed in ways neither of you fully understands yet. You have become stronger after disappointments you never deserved. You have learned to stand again after moments that almost convinced you to give up. Those experiences did not erase your ability to love. They refined it. On the other side of that same silence, another heart has been fighting invisible battles of its own. Regret has a way of visiting people late at night, when the world becomes quiet enough for honesty to speak. There have been moments when your soulmate wished they had chosen different words, acted with greater courage, or recognized your value before distance became part of your story. Those thoughts have returned again and again, not to punish them, but to awaken them. Every sincere realization begins with accepting what cannot be changed and deciding what still can. That decision is growing inside them even now. If your heart has felt restless lately, do not rush to label that feeling as anxiety alone. Sometimes our deepest emotions are invitations to pay attention instead of invitations to panic. The future is never built through fear. It is built through patience, wisdom, and the willingness to remain open even after disappointment. You are not being asked to chase someone endlessly or ignore your own worth. You are being reminded that meaningful relationships are strengthened when both people become healthier versions of themselves. Real love does not demand that you lose yourself. It quietly encourages you to discover who you truly are. As you continue listening, imagine placing every fear, every unanswered question, and every painful memory on the ground for just a few moments. You do not have to carry everything while searching for hope. Some answers arrive only after we loosen our grip on the outcomes we cannot control. Somewhere beyond your current understanding, unseen pieces are moving into place. Conversations that seemed impossible become possible. Closed hearts slowly begin to open. Old misunderstandings lose their power. What once appeared to be the ending of your story may eventually be remembered as the chapter where everything quietly began to change. Whether that change comes through reunion, healing, or a new direction entirely, its purpose is to lead you toward greater peace rather than greater confusion. So instead of asking why everything happened exactly as it did, ask what strength those moments placed inside you. Ask what wisdom now lives within your heart that was absent before. Every challenge has left you with something valuable, even if you could not recognize it while you were living through it. And perhaps the message your soulmate has been trying to send is simpler than you expected. Perhaps it is not a perfect speech or a dramatic confession. Perhaps it begins with a silent acknowledgement that they finally understand your value, that they finally recognize what your presence truly meant, and that they no longer want fear to speak louder than love. Whether those words reach you tomorrow or much later, your responsibility today remains the same: protect your peace, honor your growth, and never forget that your worth has never depended on another person's timing. The strongest connections are built between two people who have learned that love is not about desperation but about choosing each other with clarity, honesty, and courage. If this message has found you today, let it become a reminder that hope is strongest when it stands beside wisdom. Keep your heart open, but keep your standards high. Believe in meaningful connections, but never abandon your own path while waiting for someone else's footsteps to catch up. Your story is still unfolding, and the next chapter has not been written yet. Sometimes the words you have been waiting to hear are already traveling toward you, carried not by coincidence, but by the quiet decisions that change lives one moment at a time. There is another truth that few people are willing to accept. And it is this: the heart often understands what the mind spends months trying to explain. That is why certain memories continue to return without warning. A familiar song, a passing fragrance, a place you never expected to visit again, or even a quiet evening can suddenly awaken emotions that seem to have disappeared. These moments are not always instructions about the future, but they are invitations to understand yourself more deeply. Somewhere, another person has been experiencing their own reminders. They have found themselves stopping in the middle of ordinary days, wondering why your name quietly entered their thoughts. They have questioned why every attempt to move forward without resolving the past has left an emptiness they could not describe. The answers they once avoided have slowly become impossible to ignore. Every lesson life placed before them has been revealing the same realization from a different direction. They have begun to understand that genuine connections are not measured by how loudly they begin but by how deeply they continue to live within us, even through seasons of silence. There were nights when they convinced themselves that forgetting would be easier than facing the truth. They buried themselves in distractions, responsibilities, and routines, believing that enough time would erase every unanswered feeling. Yet the human heart does not always obey logic. Feelings that are honest often wait patiently beneath the surface until we become brave enough to acknowledge them. While the world around them continued moving, something inside remained unfinished. They discovered that peace cannot be borrowed from temporary distractions. It grows only when truth is finally welcomed instead of resisted. During that same time, you were changing in ways you may not have noticed. You became more resilient after disappointments that once felt unbearable. You learned that waiting should never mean forgetting your own dreams. You discovered that healing is not about pretending pain never existed but about refusing to let it decide who you become. Every quiet victory you achieved strengthened your spirit, even if no one else recognized it. You are not the same person you were when this journey began, and neither are they. That is why the future does not have to repeat the mistakes of the past. Growth changes people in ways that conversations alone never could. Sometimes distance teaches what closeness could not. Sometimes silence reveals what endless words only manage to hide. As these changes continue, something remarkable begins to happen. Fear slowly loses its authority. Regret transforms into responsibility. Uncertainty gives way to intention. The person who once hesitated now begins imagining a different future, one built not on assumptions but on honesty. They realize that meaningful relationships require courage more than perfect timing. They understand that love cannot thrive where pride refuses to step aside. These realizations arrive quietly, but once they take root, they become difficult to ignore. Imagine standing beside a river that has flowed through countless seasons. The water before you is never the same water that passed yesterday, yet the river remains itself. Human hearts are much the same. We are constantly changing, constantly learning, constantly becoming. Holding on to an outdated version of yourself or another person prevents you from seeing who they are today. Perhaps the person connected to your story has become someone capable of expressing what they once kept hidden. Perhaps you have become someone wise enough to receive those words without abandoning your own peace. This possibility deserves patience rather than pressure. It deserves hope without obsession. As you continue walking your own path, remember that your purpose is greater than any single relationship. The healthiest love never asks you to stop becoming who you are meant to be. Instead, it encourages your growth while celebrating your individuality. Continue building your life. Continue caring for your spirit. Continue choosing kindness, even after disappointment. Every act of self-respect quietly prepares you for healthier relationships in every area of life. The energy you invest in your own growth is never wasted. It becomes the foundation upon which lasting joy is built. There may soon come a moment when the silence finally breaks. It may begin with a simple message, an unexpected conversation, or a chance encounter that neither of you planned. When that moment arrives, do not rush to relive the past. Listen carefully to the present. Pay attention not only to words but also to actions. Real transformation is revealed through consistency, humility, and genuine effort. Empty promises fade quickly, but sincere change reveals itself over time. Allow wisdom to guide your heart alongside hope. There is strength in believing that beautiful things are possible while also honoring the lessons that protected you during difficult seasons. You no longer need to chase answers that are unwilling to reveal themselves. What belongs in your life will meet you with honesty rather than confusion. Whether this connection grows into the future you once imagined or leads you toward an even greater blessing, trust that every experience has been preparing you for something meaningful. The chapter ahead is not defined by fear, but by the choices you make from this moment forward. Choose peace over panic. Choose truth over assumptions. Choose courage over hesitation. And if the message your soulmate has been trying to share finally reaches you, receive it with an open heart and clear eyes, remembering that the strongest love is never built on fantasy alone. It is built through trust, respect, patience, forgiveness, and the quiet decision, made day after day, to protect something precious together. Your story is still unfolding, and the next page may hold a conversation capable of changing far more than either of you ever imagined. As time continues to move forward, there comes a quiet moment when everything that once felt uncertain begins to settle into place. It does not happen with dramatic signs or sudden miracles. Instead, it begins within the heart. You notice that you no longer wake up carrying the same weight you once did. The questions that used to echo endlessly in your mind become softer. The fear of never receiving answers slowly loses its grip. Without realizing it, you have become someone who no longer depends on certainty to find peace. That transformation is far more powerful than you know, because it changes the energy you carry into every conversation, every decision, and every relationship that follows. While you have been discovering this quiet strength, another journey has been unfolding beyond your view. The person connected to your heart has also been changing, though not always in comfortable ways. Life has a remarkable ability to teach lessons that no advice ever could. Moments of loneliness force them to face emotions they had buried beneath pride. Opportunities that once seemed exciting began to feel empty because something meaningful was missing. Success lost part of its shine when there was no one special to celebrate it with. Gradually they realized that the greatest treasures in life are not measured by achievements alone, but by the people who make those achievements meaningful. This realization did not arrive overnight. It grew through ordinary days, quiet reflections, and honest conversations with themselves that they could no longer avoid. Every memory became another reminder that genuine connections cannot simply be replaced because they require effort. They began remembering small moments they once overlooked, a shared laugh, an encouraging word, a simple act of kindness, the comfort of being understood without having to explain every feeling. Those memories slowly became more valuable than grand gestures they had once believed mattered most. Sometimes we recognize the importance of ordinary moments only after they become memories. That understanding has been changing them from the inside out. If you have ever wondered whether people can truly change, remember that change is not measured by promises. It is measured by choices repeated consistently over time. Real growth is rarely loud. It is patient. It is humble. It appears in the willingness to admit mistakes, to seek forgiveness without demanding it, and to become better regardless of the outcome. These are the quiet victories that reshape a person's character. They are invisible to the world until the day they become visible through action. Perhaps that day is closer than either of you expected. Yet before anything new can begin, there is one lesson your own heart must fully embrace. Never confuse waiting with living. Your life has never been on pause. Every sunrise has carried new opportunities. Every challenge has been preparing you for greater wisdom. Continue pursuing your dreams. Continue strengthening your relationships with those who genuinely care about you. Continue becoming someone whose happiness is rooted in purpose rather than uncertainty. The healthiest love enters a life that is already growing, not one that has been abandoned while hoping for someone else's return. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast horizon just before dawn. The sky is still dark, but the first light has already begun to appear beyond the distance. You cannot fully see it yet, but you know morning is coming because darkness never lasts forever. Hope often works in the same way. It begins before visible evidence arrives. It whispers instead of shouting. It encourages instead of forcing. The strongest hope is not blind optimism. It is quiet confidence that whatever lies ahead will ultimately serve your highest good, even if it looks different from the picture you once imagined. Somewhere, another heart may also be standing before its own sunrise. They may be gathering the courage to say what fear prevented them from saying before. They may be preparing to acknowledge truths they spent far too long avoiding. They may finally understand that vulnerability is not weakness but one of the greatest expressions of strength. Speaking honestly requires courage because honesty always carries the possibility of rejection. Yet living without honesty guarantees regret. This realization has become impossible for them to ignore. If your paths are meant to cross again, let that meeting be guided by wisdom rather than old expectations. Listen without rushing to conclusions. Speak without hiding behind fear. Allow both hearts the opportunity to reveal who they have become instead of judging each other only by yesterday's mistakes. Every meaningful relationship deserves the chance to be seen through the eyes of the present rather than the shadows of the past. Forgiveness, when freely chosen, does not erase history. It simply refuses to let history become the only story that exists. Even if the road ahead contains unexpected turns, trust your ability to walk it with grace. You have survived moments you once believed would break you forever. You have found strength in places where you expected only emptiness. You have learned that every ending quietly carries the seed of another beginning. That wisdom now belongs to you, and no disappointment can take it away. Continue protecting your peace. Continue believing that sincere love is built through honesty, patience, and mutual respect. And remember this above everything else: the message your soulmate has been trying to share is not only about their heart. It is also about yours. It is an invitation to release fear, embrace growth, and step confidently into the future without allowing yesterday's pain to decide tomorrow's possibilities. Whether the next chapter brings reunion, a heartfelt conversation, or a completely unexpected blessing, trust that your journey has never been meaningless. Every step has been preparing you for a life where love is no longer driven by confusion, but by clarity, compassion, courage, and the quiet certainty that what is truly meant for you will never require you to abandon your own worth in order to receive it. The story is still unfolding, and the most meaningful pages may still be waiting just beyond the horizon, ready to reveal themselves when both hearts are finally prepared to read them together. There comes a moment in every meaningful journey when the heart stops asking, "Why did this happen?" and begins asking, "What is this preparing me for?" That single question changes everything. It shifts your attention away from what was lost and toward what is quietly being created. Perhaps you have noticed that the things which once consumed your thoughts no longer carry the same power over you. The memories still exist, but they no longer control your emotions. Instead of feeling trapped by the past, you have started to see it as a teacher rather than a prison. That change may seem small, but it marks the beginning of a completely different chapter. While you have been learning to trust yourself again, another heart has been reaching the edge of a realization that cannot be ignored. They have come to understand that silence has limits. There are feelings that refuse to disappear simply because they remain unspoken. There are truths that become heavier every day they are hidden. The more they tried to convince themselves that moving on was easier than facing reality, the more obvious it became that some connections leave an imprint too deep to erase. They have begun recognizing your absence not as an empty space to avoid, but as a reminder of someone whose presence once brought a kind of peace they failed to appreciate. Regret often arrives quietly. It doesn't announce itself with dramatic words. It appears in ordinary moments, during long drives, peaceful evenings, crowded rooms where laughter somehow feels incomplete, or mornings when success feels strangely empty. Those moments have become mirrors, reflecting lessons that could no longer remain hidden. They have started asking themselves difficult questions. What if fear made me walk away from something genuine? What if pride spoke louder than my heart? What if the opportunity one believed would always be there quietly slipped away because I never found the courage to protect it? These questions do not exist to punish them. They exist to awaken them. Sometimes awakening begins with discomfort because truth rarely arrives wrapped in convenience. At the same time, your own spirit has been discovering something equally important. You have realized that love should never require you to abandon your dignity. Caring deeply about someone does not mean forgetting your own value. Real affection grows stronger when both people respect themselves enough to build trust instead of depending on uncertainty. This understanding has made you wiser. You no longer seek constant reassurance because your peace is no longer built upon another person's approval. You have learned to stand firmly even while your heart remains open. That balance is one of the greatest gifts life can offer. Imagine a tree standing through every season. Strong winds bend its branches. Heavy rain soaks its roots. Winter strips away its leaves. Yet beneath the surface, the roots continue growing deeper. From the outside, it may appear that nothing is happening, but the greatest growth is taking place where no one can see it. Human hearts often grow the same way. The quiet seasons are not empty. They are preparing you for storms you will survive and blessings you will finally be ready to receive. Perhaps this season has never been about waiting for another person at all. Perhaps it has been about becoming the version of yourself capable of recognizing healthy love when it finally arrives. Somewhere beyond your sight, another soul may also be reaching that same understanding. They may finally recognize that lasting relationships are not built through perfect timing or perfect words. They are built through honesty, accountability, consistency, and the willingness to keep choosing each other even after the excitement of the beginning fades. This realization changes everything because it replaces fantasy with maturity. Love that survives life is not sustained by emotion alone. It is strengthened by daily decisions rooted in respect and kindness. If the moment arrives when your paths cross again, allow the conversation to unfold naturally. Do not carry the pressure of proving anything. Let authenticity speak louder than expectations. The strongest reunions are not created by rehearsed speeches. They are created when two people have grown enough to meet each other without pretending to be someone they are not. Listen carefully. Observe patiently. Let actions reveal what words alone cannot. Time has a remarkable way of exposing what is genuine. Remember that not every meaningful ending leads back to where it began. Sometimes healing changes the destination completely. The greatest blessing may not be returning to an old story exactly as it was, but discovering that both of you have become capable of writing a far healthier one. And if life ultimately leads your paths in different directions, the growth you have gained will never be wasted. Every lesson learned, every tear survived, every moment of courage has prepared you for deeper joy than fear could ever imagine. Never underestimate what quiet faith can accomplish. Faith is not pretending that uncertainty does not exist. Faith is choosing hope while accepting that some answers require patience. Continue living fully. Continue showing kindness without losing wisdom. Continue building a future that reflects your values instead of your fears. The person who is truly meant to walk beside you will never ask you to shrink your light so they can feel brighter. They will celebrate your growth because your happiness will inspire rather than threaten them. As this chapter gently draws toward its close, carry one final thought with you. The message your soulmate has been trying to tell you may be far simpler than you expected. It is not only, "I miss you," or "I finally understand." It is also a reminder that genuine love begins with truth. Truth spoken with humility has the power to heal what silence could never repair. Whether those words arrive tomorrow, months from now, or in a way you never anticipated, meet them with the wisdom you have earned through every challenge you have overcome. Trust that your heart has not traveled this far without purpose. Every step has been shaping you into someone who no longer confuses loneliness with destiny, fear with protection, or waiting with living. Your journey continues, and somewhere beyond today's horizon, another chapter is already beginning to unfold, one filled not with uncertainty alone, but with quiet courage, renewed hope, and the possibility that two hearts transformed by time may finally recognize the extraordinary gift they were always meant to protect. Every journey eventually reaches a moment when the questions become quieter than the answers. Perhaps that moment is closer than you think. You have walked through uncertainty without knowing where it would lead. You have carried hope on days when it felt easier to give up. You have learned that the strongest hearts are not the ones that never break, but the ones that continue choosing love, wisdom, and compassion even after disappointment has left its mark. As you stand at the edge of this chapter, look back for just a moment, not to relive the pain, but to recognize how far you have come. The person who first began this journey is no longer the person reading these words now. You have grown stronger in ways that cannot be measured. You have become more patient, more understanding, and more aware of your own worth. Those changes are not accidents. They are the quiet rewards of every lesson life placed before you. Somewhere beyond your sight, another heart has also reached a turning point. They can no longer ignore the truth that has followed them through every season. The excuses that once felt convincing have faded. The fear that once kept them silent has become smaller than the desire to be honest. They now understand that some opportunities are too meaningful to lose without trying. They know that words left unspoken often become the greatest regrets of all. That realization has changed the way they see everything. They no longer remember you only through old conversations. They remember your kindness during difficult days, your patience when life became confusing, your ability to see hope even when circumstances suggested otherwise. They remember the comfort of feeling understood without having to explain every emotion. Those memories have become reminders of something rare, something that cannot simply be replaced by meeting someone new. Genuine connections leave traces that time alone cannot erase. Yet this story has never been only about another person's awakening. It has always been about yours as well. The greatest message hidden within this journey is not that someone may return. It is that you discovered your own light while walking through the darkness. You learned to find peace within yourself instead of searching for it in someone else's choices. You learned that your value has never depended on whether another person recognized it quickly enough. Real confidence is born when you understand that your heart deserves honesty, respect, and consistency, regardless of who enters or leaves your life. If your paths are meant to meet again, let that reunion happen without fear. Let it happen because both hearts have become capable of protecting what they once struggled to understand. Meet each other not as two people seeking someone to complete them, but as two individuals who have discovered completeness within themselves and now choose to share that strength together. That is where lasting love begins. It is never built upon desperation. It is built upon freedom, trust, humility, and the daily decision to care for one another with sincerity. And if life reveals a different ending than the one you imagined, receive that ending with the same courage that carried you through every uncertain step. Sometimes the greatest blessing is not the one we expected, but the one that quietly guides us toward a future greater than our own imagination could create. Every experience has prepared you for relationships rooted in truth instead of confusion, in peace instead of fear, and in mutual respect instead of endless uncertainty. Nothing you have lived through has been wasted. Every tear taught compassion. Every delay taught patience. Every disappointment strengthened your resilience. Every unanswered question encouraged deeper faith. Together, those experiences shaped a heart capable of recognizing genuine love whenever it arrives. As you move forward from this moment, do not allow yesterday's pain to become tomorrow's limitation. Continue building the life you dream about. Continue becoming the person you are proud to be. Continue choosing kindness without surrendering wisdom. Continue believing that meaningful connections still exist in a world that often feels distracted by temporary things. The right people will recognize your heart not because it is perfect, but because it is authentic. They will value your presence because they understand what honesty, loyalty, and compassion truly mean. Perhaps, even now, unseen circumstances are bringing everything into alignment. Doors that once seemed permanently closed may quietly begin to open. Conversations that felt impossible may suddenly become natural. Healing that once appeared distant may arrive when you least expect it. Life has a remarkable way of surprising those who continue walking with hope while remaining grounded in wisdom. So release the weight of trying to control every outcome. Trust the lessons you have learned. Trust the strength you have gained. Trust that what is truly meant for your life will never require you to betray your own peace in order to receive it. And above all, trust yourself. Your heart has survived enough to recognize the difference between temporary excitement and lasting love. As this story reaches its final words, Carry this truth with you wherever life leads next. The most important message your soulmate has been trying to tell you is not simply, "I miss you," or, "I finally understand." The deepest message is this: real love begins the moment fear stops making the decisions. Whether that realization leads to a reunion, a heartfelt conversation, or a beautiful new beginning you cannot yet imagine, let it remind you that your journey has always been moving toward growth, peace, and hope. Walk into the future with confidence instead of doubt. Let gratitude replace regret. Let courage speak louder than fear. And whenever life asks you to choose between protecting your heart through walls or protecting it through wisdom, always choose wisdom, because wisdom allows love to enter without asking you to lose yourself. Your story is not ending here. It is simply opening the door to a new chapter, one written with honesty, strengthened by patience, illuminated by hope, and guided by the quiet certainty that whatever is truly meant for your soul will find its way to you at exactly the right time.